Archangel Michael says you are on the red alert. Something very shocking is about to happen. Read this immediately, don't try to skip. Archangel Michael says the hour has narrowed until it is only a thread of red light. He says your name is pulsing on a sealed page that cannot wait any longer. He says the next breath you take must be taken awake and ready. You stand at the doorway between the ordinary room and the room where truth refuses disguises. The air feels heavier, like rain pressed into metal, like thunder waiting for a signal. Your heartbeat learns a new drum that was carved for urgent nights like this one. A page turns in a book you cannot see yet feel down your spine. The turning is slow enough to teach you reverence and swift enough to chase your hesitation. The page smells of smoke without fire and ocean without shore. A single bell rings in the distance and arrives inside your chest. The tone stretches and then settles like a command gently given. The bell has counted you and the count has reached now. The room listens as if it has ears in the walls. Shadows step back from the corners as if they are ashamed to hide what belongs to you. The ceiling lowers its voice and the floor keeps the secret safe. Your hands know they are meant to open something that appears only when you are brave. Your shoulders lift as if a wing has rested there to remind you of direction. Your feet heat up like coals learning how to hold weight without being afraid. There is a packet sealed with wax that softens in your presence. The seal bears a mark that is at once ancient and entirely personal to your story. The wax yields like a witness who finally trusts you with the full testimony. Inside the packet lies the map that refuses to be ordinary. The map blows where your mistakes once stood, transforming crossroads into corridors. The corridors do not narrow you but focus you. A wind moves even though no window is open. A wind smells like wet iron, like keys used to open doors that deny rumor and welcome proof. The wind carries one instruction that repeats until it engraves itself into your bones. Breathe with the intention of survivors who have chosen to become more than their survival. Stand as if a promise has just selected you from a crowd. Listen as if the truth is arriving by train and refuses to be missed. The calendar on the wall changes color inside its numbers. Days that were pale become vivid like flags before a parade you were born to lead. The coming date stops pretending it is ordinary. Your reflection learns to hold steadiness as if it has been training for this meeting. Your eyes clear like blasts cleaned after a storm. Your jaw relaxes because strength requires softness the way lightning requires a sky. A photograph long forgotten wakes up where you stored it. The faces inside it look toward you as if they always expected this night. One face glows and steps forward until it is larger than memory. The floor understands and does not creak, granting you the dignity of silence. The clock hushes even its ticking so your choices can speak instead. The room grows taller to fit the moment you are about to become. There is a knock that does not come from the door. It comes from the center of your ribs and answers itself from behind your spine. The echo writes its initials in your breath. Archangel Michael says the red alert is not panic but preparation sharpened into mercy. He says the shock is not designed to break you but to break the shell that trapped your name. He says your courage is the code that unlocks what has been circling you for months. A lantern appears the way morning appears to mountains. Its flame has the calm of a veteran who has seen nights tougher than this one. The handle fits your hand as if it was measured in advance. You lift the lantern and a corridor appears where there was only blank wall. The corridor smells like rain beginning again after a long year. The floor carries the faint sound of many feet who walked here before you for reasons similar to yours. You pass 3 frames hung without pictures. The first frame holds the weight of a decision you once avoided. The second frame holds the light of a promise you are ready to keep. The third frame opens like a mouth to release a name. Your name flows out with the gentleness lightning shows only to clouds. The name steadies the air and introduces you to your own future. The future bows because it recognizes its rightful companion. A brass box waits on a pedestal made from yesterday's fragments. The lid is warm and writes steam into the cold around it. You touch it and it opens like an eye that trusts the light. Inside the brass box rests a folded banner woven from alarms and lullabies. You pull it free and the threads hum like aircraft turning toward home. The banner asks to be lifted and you lift it until it drapes you with clarity. Your spine lengthens another inch as the banner rests across your shoulders. The weight is not heavy the way duty can be cruel. It is heavy the way a metal is honest. The fabric whispers the route that must be taken without delay. You step forward into a hall lined with clocks that keep time for decisive people. Each clock ticks to a rhythm composed of resolve. The hands move in the language of now. A table appears with 3 objects arranged in a line. On the left, a key that looks like a star held its breath. In the center, a letter sealed with red wax that pulses like a harpy. On the right, a small compass that points to whatever loves you bravely. You pick up the key and it fills your palm with remembered strength. The metal remembers doors your ancestors opened without permission from their fear. The key belongs to those who do not negotiate with hesitation. You slide the key into the lock of the letter because some letters require permission to be read. The lock clicks like a door laughing because it can finally do its job. The seal softens and breaks with gratitude. The letter reads itself aloud without sound. The words lift into the air like moths that learn to burn without dying. The message settles into your chest where it will be safe from rumor. You are instructed to remain rooted when the first wave hits. You are told to gather what belongs to you and release what has been borrowing your breath. You are shown a dawn that arrives through a different window than the one you expected. The first wave comes as a sudden alignment you did not schedule. People who kept you small find their voices lowering without your permission. Doors that were painted shut discover hinges again. Another wave follows, carrying the scent of corrected maps. Streets you could not find in daylight appear luminous at night. Your feet remember directions your mind forgot to trust. You feel the click inside your life like a vault surrendering to the correct code. The click is not a noise but a rearrangement. The furniture of your fate slides into its true positions. Archangel Michael says the next minutes will decide the next months. He says power arrives to the one who is ready to carry it without cruelty. He says gentleness with yourself will let your authority breathe. A call comes from a voice that traveled a long road to find you. The voice tastes like metal and honey and carries receipts of promises made before you were tired. The voice sets a chair at your table and asks nothing you cannot already give. A list forms in your mind without paper and orders itself without argument. The first item glows until you agree to accomplish it in the next breath. The second item waits politely because it trusts that you will move like you mean it. Your posture becomes a declaration other people can read. Your silence becomes a sentence that carries full grammar. your gaze becomes a lantern placed on a shoreline where others are steering. A surge of memory arrives and does not negotiate. It shows you a version of yourself that mistook smallness for safety. It shows you a different version standing barefoot on the threshold of a life that names you correctly. You choose the second version and the corridor brightens. The brightening pushes back at all rehearsed apologies until they dissolve like sugar. The air tastes like metal turning into flute music. Footsteps gather behind you and resolve themselves into allies. These allies are the reflections of all the times you trusted the quiet that asked you to keep going. They stand shoulder to shoulder with you and expand the corridor into a boulevard. You walk together as if a drumline decided to march through your veins. The rhythm is disciplined kindness. The cadence is the syllable of your true name spoken at the exact tempo that unlocks doors. A door arrives that looks like a night sky sewn into wood. Stars sit where the nails should be and galaxies swirl where the handle waits. You reach for it and the wood becomes velvet that knows your touch. The room beyond smells like storms that learned respect. A table sits in the center with a blank contract made from light. A pen waits that writes in ink collected from comets. You sit and the chair agrees with your decision. The contract lifts like a bird and settles again as if nodding. The pen warms in your fingers like a small oath. You sign not to bind yourself, but to release yourself into precision. You sign to return everything you borrowed from fear back to the lender. You sign to invite responsibility that does not bruise. The contract folds itself and slides into your chest where it replaces the old debt. Your heartbeat learns a new agreement that pays you in clarity. The interest accumulates as peace that refuses to be shaken. Somewhere behind you, a clock applauds. Somewhere ahead, a curtain rises without ceremony. Somewhere within, the weather changes permanently. Archangel Michael says the shock will appear like a thunderbolt and behave like a ladder. He says you will climb while others measure and you will rise while others weigh. He says your ascent will invite those who are willing to breathe higher air. You inhale and your ribs open like gates at a parade meant just for your courage. You exhale and the old dust leaves its posts willingly. Your lungs shine like newly polished mirrors. The hallway narrows and then expands, teaching you the mathematics of trust. The expansion makes room for messenger to arrive in a coat made from whispered prophecies. The messenger bows and places a small black stone in your hand. The stone is not heavy but it remembers gravity. It holds the story of every fall that taught dignity. It also hides a spark that knows the path up the mountain of your next hour. You roll the stone across your palm and a door glides open soundlessly. The hinges do not complain because they were lubricated by your consistency. The threshold rises to meet your foot as if eager to carry you. The city outside has changed while you were reading the letter in the room of lightning. Streetlights hum the pitch of alignment. Grothwalks show you footsteps you have not yet taken. People turn toward you because the air around you is speaking a language of solved riddles. They see a steadiness that does not perform. They feel a pressure toward goodness that does not beg. You walk and the wind arranges itself around your shoulders like a cape. A gap is not for fantasy but for devotion. It keeps your warmth from fleeing during the necessary conversations. A whistle blows from the station where rivals become departures. A train waits that does not use tracks and does not ask for tickets. Its destination is written on your sternum like a command with manners. You step into the carriage and the interior is shaped like the inside of a promise. Seats face each other for honest exchange, windows curve upward to include constellations in the itinerary. The train begins with the softness of a decision finally made. Acceleration feels like permission, the scenery blurs and then clarifies as if the world is adjusting to your new frequency. You pass fields of opportunities that once looked like tangled weeds. The weeds stand upright and salute as the train approaches. They transform into harvest rows prepared to be gathered. You pass hills that were once obstacles and now rehearse as stages. Their slopes become aisles for your steps, their peaks hold microphones of wind prepared to amplify the right words. You arrive at a station named by your own hands. The sign is sturdy and refuses to weather, the platform smells like cedar uncertainty. Stepping down, you are met by a ledger keeper who does not smile and does not frown. Their neutrality is a kindness to this consequential moment. The keeper opens the ledger and shows you where your name has been written in bold. The ink is red because the alert is red, not to frighten but to focus. The color burns away complacency the way sunrise burns away fog. Your name settles into its true font. The keeper offers you a stamp shaped like a sunrise. You press it over your name and the page heats like a small dawn, the impression refuses to fade. A bell rings again, this time overhead, and the sound carries witnesses. Doors at the far end of the platform open all at once. The crowd breathes the collective inhale of something deserved. You walk through those doors and become visible to rooms that could not see you before now. Conversations that used to pass you by now stop and ask for your terms. Agreements reshape themselves to fit your integrity. Archangel Michael says the shock is a realignment that protects your timeline. He says those who played with your hours will find their games cancelled by sunrise. He says you will measure your progress in steadiness rather than spectacle. Night folds itself up and places itself neatly in the closet of memory. Dawn irons its sleeve and shakes out the wrinkles. Morning pins a badge to your chest that you did not need but earned anyway. Your hands learn new grammar for touch and release. Your voice warms to a deeper register that does not tremble. Your gaze settles on the horizon where the next signal waits. The city hums beneath your feet and above your head. The hum is not noise but agreement. It sounds like a choir that learned discipline and grace. You return to the first room, and it is larger now because you are larger now. The walls keep their respectful distance from your clarity. The ceiling gives you sky. The brass box sits open, satisfied. The banner has shaped itself to your shoulders and refuses to be removed by doubt. The lantern rests but remains lit because the work continues. Your steps begin to count themselves as a ceremony of arrival. Each heel to toe is a notation in the song of your decision, each turn of the head is a compass aligning. A storm moves along the edge of the city like a patrol. It does not threaten you because storms respect those who prepare, it redraws the horizon with bolder ink. You speak a simple sentence and the room nods. The sentence clears the lingering smog of unfinished business, the corners brighten and the center of the floor steadies. A final document appears, this time not to sign but to read aloud. It contains the terms of your next season. The terms are clean and do not insult your dignity. You accept without negotiating your worth downward. You accept because the standard is correct and the timing is lawful. You accept because your yes is built from the architecture of earned clarity. The corridor opens again, and this time the exit is a garden. Leaves clap in a wind that knows your tempo, paths volunteer themselves to your choosing. A gate stands ahead, painted the red of readiness rather than alarm. A latch is smooth from many brave hands that opened it before you, the hinges hum like a song you all must remember. You unlatch and step through, carrying the lantern, the banner, the compass, and the sign dawn. The garden pours its light across your shoulders until you shine through the fabric. These draft gentle circles around your wrists like bracelets made from industry. Somewhere far behind, the old version of the world collapses its set pieces and thanks you for the show. Somewhere close ahead, the new version rolls out a carpet made from responsibilities you will love. The distance between them is measured in one more steady breath. You take it and keep walking toward the place that was waiting while you learn to be ready. You do not turn around because gratitude and forward motion can live in the same spine. You do not hurry because precision refuses to be rushed. The bell rings once more and its tone lands like a crown. The city lifts, the garden widens, and the road invites your souls with respect. The contract inside your chest glows until the glow becomes your new weather. Archangel Michael says the red alert has served its purpose and now transforms into red carpet rolled out by consequence. He says the shock waved through you and left you cleaner, sharper, and kinder. He says the next hour begins now and it will not betray you. You reach the threshold of a building that distills your power into usefulness. The door is glass that reflects your face with mercy. The handle is brass that conducts the current of your commitment. The lock turns from the inside because you have changed the geometry of access. The room greets you by name and offers a chair placed at a table built for long work. Tools rest in trays gleaming with civilized promise. You set down the lantern and its light climbs the walls like ivy. The banner drapes across the chair, honoring the back that carried it here. The compass anchors at the table's corner, pointing to the true north of your next task. A simple notebook waits with its first page blank. You place your palm upon it and feel the heartbeats of those who will be served by what you do here. The blankness is not empty, but fertile. You lift the pen and write the first line of the new arrangement. The ink dries fast because hesitation has been removed from the recipe. Footsteps echo in the hallway and the eyes take their places. They bring patience, skill, and the kind of humor that keeps tough work human. They sit, and the table becomes a counsel rather than a burden. The windows warm with rising light, and the city answers with 1,000 small promises kept. Elevators bring people to their right floors. Crosswalks blink in time with the lungs of the gentle and the brave. You become a keeper of pace and a teacher of calm momentum. You become a breaker of needless delays and a builder of useful pauses. You become a lighthouse that knows it is not the ship. The day advances and refuses to pretend it is anything but new. Doors open and close with respectful rhythm. Notes pile into psalms that fill the building with reasons. You step back and watch the machine of purpose run without grinding. The parts know each other and the hull moves cleanly. The oil is trust and the engine is credibility. Night returns not as a threat but as a velvet calling. You gather your tools and bless their design by maintaining them. You lock the door and the lock smiles back because it has learned your touch. The streetlights accompany you as if a sign. The garden breathes in the dark and exhales soundlessly. The sky rearranges its stars to write a sentence only you can read, you do, and it says that readiness becomes you. It says your feet have learned the shape of the road that suits your destiny. It says more is coming and it will arrive in order. At your doorstep, the keys feel light because the day carried you rather than the reverse. The door opens with a soft sound of household loyalty. The room welcomes you like a throat welcomes a name spoken kindly. You set the lantern down and it dims to a friendly ember. The banner folds itself and waits for tomorrow's shoulders. The compass glows and then rests, sure of the direction you will take at dawn. Sleep rises like tide over stone. Your bones settle into the agreement they signed. Your breath lengthens as the contract inside your chest warms the room. The bell is silent now because it trusts your vigilance. The book closes because the chapter hath been written. The page hums with gratitude because it met the right reader at the right time. Archangel Michael says the red alert carried you across a bridge that will not vanish. He says your steps taught the bridge how to remain. He says the morning will study your steadiness and mirror it back to you. The window softens with first light and your eyes open without flinch. The day stands at attention because you have awakened. The city knots its tie and hands you the hour. In the quiet before breakfast, you listen and the future confirms your appointment. The appointment includes fairness, precision, tenderness, and the refusal to be hurried into mediocrity. The appointment offers a chair with your name carved into honesty. You sit and the world, noticing, straightens its posture. The shock is no longer incoming because it has already served and then retired. The readiness remains because it is now your native weather. You begin, and beginning feels like breathing. Your tools answer like friends. Your purpose hums like a well-tuned engine beneath a sky that finally recognizes your license to move. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks with contributions of up to $1.20. Morning enters like a quiet general who does not raise his voice. He inspects the corners and signs off on the light. It points you toward the next door with a nod that carries certainty. The building hums with clean purpose as you re-enter. Floors remember your stride and adjust their echo to match your steadiness. The air holds a taste of copper and rain, promising accuracy. On your desk, the compass has rotated by a single, deliberate degree. The shift is small enough to be missed by a careless eye. To you, he is a headline written in precision. A folder waits with a red thread looped around it. The thread pulls like a tide when you touch it, but it does not snap or fray. It carries the tension of a necessary crossing. The first page inside is translucent and overlays your plans with braver variants of themselves. You can see through it and also see more because of it. Courage becomes a lens rather than a costume. A map appears again, this one traced in the geometry of commitments. Lines are not boundaries here, they are lanes. Each lane holds a destination priced in patience and protected by clarity. You move your pen across the paper like a pilot taxiing to the runway. The nib makes the soft sound of resolve finding a path. He accepts with the quickness of decision. Archangel Michael says the second wave favors those who honored the first. He says momentum respects honest labor. He says the signal will widen into a corridor if you step exactly now. You stand and the chair remembers you kindly. Your hands gather the notebook, the compass, and the small black stone that learned your warmth. The banner over the chair lifts at the edges as if to salute your spine. The hallway stretches forward like a ribbon cut from the fabric of readiness. Doors that used to be decorative begin to function. Hinges move like instruments that have found their sheet music. At the end of the hall, an elevator opens without being called. Inside, there are no buttons, only a panel that reads aligned floors only. The doors close with the dignity of a promise kept. Descent feels like a straightening rather than a dropping. The numbers glide past like stations on a private rail. When the doors open, the floor breathes a cooler air, the kind stored for critical work. A room of glass walls meets you with a horizon on every side. Screens glow with maps of timing, not territory. The central table holds 3 objects you have not yet earned and yet are ready to use. The first is a mechanism carved from dark wood that has survived storms. Its pendulum doesn't swing, it pulses, measuring not seconds but commitments. The second is a stamp that prints dates made of iron and mercy. The third object is a small bell that rings only when a decision reaches the right depth. You do not touch it because respect is a form of power. You place your palm beside it and feel the vibration of decisions already chosen. A door within the glass slides open as if it overheard your breathing. Behind it, a smaller room keeps the silence that strong choices require. A chair faces a window that looks directly into your near future. You sit, and the window becomes a film that refuses drama and chooses truth. It shows the lines of effort crossing and meeting without collision. It shows people receiving your steadiness like rain in a thirsty city. You see one person pause at a threshold they were afraid to cross. Your earlier work becomes the handrail that helps them step. Your step becomes a note added to the chord you have been tuning. Archangel Michael says you are not responsible for all weather, only for the climate in your radius. He says hold your barometer close and calibrate it with sincerity. He says storms respect lighthouses that stay lit with everglows. The bell on the table rings once, gentle and absolute. The ring passes through your ribs and leaves a straight line where a wavering once lived. The mechanism pulses and your breath matches it naturally. You stamp today's date on the corner of your plan. Iron and mercy soak into the page and dry as structure. The page becomes a bridge others can walk without splinters. Footsteps are right outside the glass with the tempo of a good team. They do not rush and they do not drag. They carry tools instead of opinions. You open the door and the team enters like a chord finding its missing note. Each person lays a small, essential object on the table. The table grows useful rather than crowded. One brings a ledger of outcomes measured in human ease. Another brings schedules arranged like orchards rather than cages. A third brings a kit for repairing trust without fear. You arrange the objects in a circle that keeps everyone honest. The circle locks with a click that feels like a shoulder fitting into a sleeve. The work begins without fanfare because readiness prefers action to decoration. First come the calls that needed a steady voice yesterday. Your tone makes space where panic would have stolen it. Your sentences lay track while the train is already moving, and next come the letters that were waiting for clean ink. Your pen does not treble. Your signatures are brief, legible, and kind, then arrive the numbers. Those quiet citizens of order. You let them speak and you listen until they reveal their ethical shape. Their columns align like pillars meant to hold a roof for many. By afternoon, the building itself is breathing with you. Elevators move with manners, doors swing and return without slamming. A courier appears bearing a sealed card the size of your palm. The seal is not wax but light condensed into a patient coin. You break it and the card warms like a small animal waking. The message inside is only 3 lines long. The first line says the second wave has entered the harbor. The second line says all channels are clear for the vessel you have prepared. The third line is your name written with the same font the sky used at dawn. Seeing it steadies your ankles, it also quiets the last small room in your mind that still kept a chair for doubt. You step back from the table and the team rises with you. Coordination happens without commands because respect learned its choreography. The corridor outside stretches to the lift like a runway already cleared. And the street. The city holds a steadier harpy, crossings blink in solidarity. Windows are open just enough to train good air. A convoy waits with engines humming at a humane RPM. The vehicles are not armored against fear. They are tuned against waste. You enter the lead car and it moves with the confidence of well-drawn maps. Neighborhoods slide past, each carrying its own rhythm of livelihood. You note what needs reinforcing and what deserves to be left alone. The landscape answers by showing its marrow rather than its costume. At the appointed corner, a crowd stands without chanting. Quiet expectancy is its own roar. Faces look to you not for spectacle but for sequence. You lift your hand and the first necessary motion begins. Boxes carry solutions instead of symbols. Lines form and dissolve as needs are met with the speed of decency. Archangel Michael says leadership is not the loudest voice. It is the clearest service. He says keep your back straight and your feet merciful. He says the red alert turns into red steadiness when responsibility arrives on time. An old clock tower nearby strikes a precise out. Each strike is a door opening in a different building. The sound ties the blocks together like a thread of disciplined hope. Children point because they can see the air bright in the shade. Elders nod because they feel the ground hold a fraction stronger. Workers loosen their jaws because the day stopped grinding and started moving. It lasts the right amount of time and then it ends exactly when it should. The convey disperses like rain finishing its work. The street returns to its daily pulse, altered in detail and of proven spirit. Back at the building, you climb the stairs instead of taking the elevator. Each step gathers your breath into a clean stack. The landing greets you like a friend who doesn't need small talk. In your office, the lander waits on the shelf. Flame steady and calm, the compass sits in the center of the desk, needle sure and modest. The banner rests folded with the gravity of ceremonial cloth. You write a brief account of the day in a logbook meant for future steadiness. The entry is factual, clear, and free of theater. You include names that must be thanked and systems that must be reinforced. The phone rings once with news that agrees with the work you did. Agreements sign themselves in your absence because the tone was properly set. The bell in the glass room does not ring because nothing fell out of alignment. Eve leans in like a friend offering tea. Lights soften without losing their accuracy. The building lowers its shoulders by a measured inch. You walk the halls once more, not as patrol but as gratitude. Tools are returned to their trays. Chairs are straightened to face tomorrow without apology. On the rooftop, the city opens like a book that trusts its reader. Street sketch sentences, bridges underline them. The sky signs off with a deliberate gradient. Archangel Michael says the watch is continuous but not punishing. He says rest is a weapon against waste. He says your calm is becoming contagious in the best way. You set the lantern to low and let its timber learn the shape of dusk. The compass goes back into your pocket, warm and friendly. The stone cools in your palm and reminds you gravity can be gentle. Walking home, you pass windows where small victories are setting the table. A pot sivers in one. A lamp glows in another. A laugh causes a threshold and refuses to stray. Your front door recognizes your key by the confidence in your wrist. The room inside carries your shape without needing to announce it. The floor quiets the day and lets your bones lighten. You place the stone on the window so the moonlight can mentor it. You drape the banner over the chair so it can rest in the posture it taught your back. You set the compass near the notebook, a quiet pair that knows tomorrow. Sleep returns like a promise renewed rather than a surrender demanded. The breath organizes itself into rooms of steady air. Muscles lay down, their tools without dropping them. In the night, a thin rain inks the city in calm cursive. Roofs read it and settle deeper into their beams. Trees accept it and revise their silhouettes. Dawn lifts again, equal parts steel and honey. Your eyes open with readiness that doesn't shout. The day presents itself without disguise. You lace your shoes and the knot holds like a handshake. The mirror returns a face that has learned both softness and edge. The air smells like clean paper and earned coffee. At the building, the lobby greets you with a human-sized silence. The guard nods, a single syllable exchanged without sound. Elevators wait as if they are standing at attention. On your desk, a new envelope rests beside the law book. The paper is thick and carries no seal, only your name in a confident hand. You open it and the first page is blank in a way that invites rather than dares. You write 3 lines to set the day's angle. The first line names what must not be delayed. The second line names what must not be forced. The third line names what must be protected even from your own urgency. The paper absorbs the ink like soil taking rain. A letter stamped ready and unafraid. Archangel Michael says the red alert has matured into red discipline. He says you are carrying voltage without sparks. He says the city can sense it and is answering with cleanliness. You walk to the glass room and the bell keeps its poise. A metronome pulses at a tempo you can sustain for years. The stamp sits quiet because dates are already honoring themselves. Messages arrive and are sorted by integrity rather than noise. The team filters them without bleeding. Calls are returned with respect that ends rumors before they begin. At midday, sunlight carves a bright path across the floor. You step into it and feel the benevolent heat enter your ribs. The path continues up the wall and points at the clock that now runs like a friend. You schedule a small interval to sharpen tools. Blades meet stones and trade compliments. Kings learn to move without complaint. In the afternoon, a challenge steps into the room wearing its honest face. The thoughts are as solid as a pretend to be gentle. They simply exist at its full size. You greet it with the same posture you gave the dawn. The team forms a semicircle that leaves space for the solution to arrive. The air keeps its oxygen, nobody steals it with panic. You break the challenge into precise pathways and assign them to strengths rather than titles. People move and the floor approves. the clock watches and does not judge. Work circulates like blood in a healthy system. Hands touch tasks and leave fingerprints shaped like craft. The building hums warmer now, like a body approaching a comfortable sweat. By evening, the challenge is no longer a creature. It is a pile of completed forms and cleanly set levers. The room exhales once and returns to neutral. The bell gives a tiny, satisfied resonance, less sound than feeling. You add a few lines to the logbook that future steadiness will appreciate. You thank the day out loud with a sentence trimmed of ornament. The sentence lands like a coin placed exactly where it belongs. Outside, the city glows with competence rather than glare. Traffic moves like a practiced orchestra. Crosswalks beat time for feet that have earned their destinations. Archangel Michael says you have entered the phase where excellence looks like calm. He says keep the flame at the size that warms and guides. He says the ladder now lives inside the lightning. You head home along a route that used to feel longer. Streets bow a little without losing their dignity. A dog barks once and goes back to believing in people. At your door, you feel the contract inside your chest give a pleasant weight. It is not a burden. It is a center. You step inside and the air agrees. The banner folds itself, a quiet ceremony at the end of a steady day. The compass rests and dreams in degrees. The stone cools and remembers mountains. Night unfurls and leaves the moon on your windowsill like a silver stamp. A room becomes the right temperature for truth. Sleep arrives with clean hands and the useful silence. In the dark, the city whispers that it will meet you tomorrow with the same honesty. It promises to keep its part if you keep yours. It lays out the path in a line only you can see. You turn toward that line and rest. The red alert has fulfilled its purpose without leaving ashes. The shock has taught you how to carry light without dropping it. And so the second wave closes like a file that has been fully, correctly handled. The room holds your shape while your breath travels its measured circuit. The night stands guard, learning your standard and choosing to match it. Night loosens its grip and leaves a cool seam of quiet. The city waits with the patience of stone and the attentiveness of glass. Your breathing finds the same even pace it found yesterday, only deeper. The room wakes as you stand, tools greeting you like old friends. The lantern takes flame without complaint. The compass aligns in your palm as if it missed your pulse. You lace your shoes and your resolve at the same time. The knot holds a message your hands already understand. The mirror returns a face arranged for usefulness. Streets meet your stride with cooperative ground. Windows earn the sunrise with steady panes. Crothwachsburg is obvious that resects momentum. The lobby smells like paper and clean metal. Floors hold their echo steady, not loud and not timid. Lights lift one notch as you pass because cadence belongs to you now. On the desk, the notebook opens to a page that invites accuracy. The pen sits like a tuned instrument awaiting a measured breath. The first line you write sets the angle for the next 12 hours. Archangel Michael says your hour is a blade that cuts waste into ribbons. He says carry the blade with care and never with vanity. He says let precision be the kindness you offer the day. You walk to the glass room and the bell keeps its quiet authority. A metronome buzzes a tempo human enough to keep. The stamp of days rests like a sentinel that trusts your timing. The team filters in with the respectful hush of people who value breath. Each person takes a place that suits their strength. The table becomes a circle of solutions instead of a pile of issues. First, the calls that want clarity more than comfort. Your tone gives both in the right order. Agreements grow roots because your sentences do not wobble. Next, the numbers that define fairness. Pounds align like a row of lamps lighting a safe path home. Totals land with a solidity that calms the room, and the systems that must hum without complaint. Gears greet oil and thank it by moving cleanly. Hinges learn to open without drama. A courier brings a slim tube sealed in red twine. Inside waits a rolled chart that smells like new timber. Lines stretch across it in a language that feels native to your hands. The chart names phases of work shaped like tides. Launch to stain, deepen, reinforce. Your day sits in sustain and is leaning into deepen. You share the chart and watch shoulders drop into competence. Eyes bright not with spectacle but with comprehension. Motion begins, efficient and considerate. A message lands describing a knot that used to become a snarl. Today it becomes a braid. 3 strands of timing weave themselves into something durable. In the hallway you meet a quiet urgency. It wears clean boots and carries detailed notes. He asks for sequence, not theatrics. You give it steps that fit like measured furniture. The floor accepts the weight without groaning. The clock loosens its jaw because exactness removes strain. Midday draws a bright line across the glass table. The beam cuts through paper and lands warm on your wrist. The warmth agrees with the metronome's pulse. You step outside for 3 measured breaths. Air tastes like steel brushing against honey. The street remarks on your steadiness by staying orderly, back inside. A decision that had waited by the door enters with polite firmness. He is large and honest and free of disguise. You greet it with your chair already squared to neutral. You break it into portions that can be cooked without burning anyone. Tasks move to people like instruments to musicians. The room plays the song of completion without wasted notes. By late afternoon, outcomes anchor themselves. The board shows lines turning from provisional to confirmed. Faces lift in a soft way. People lift when effort is respected. Archangel Michael says calm is not sleep. It is readiness under control. He says the red horn now hums instead of screams. He says you are carrying voltage in a sheath of grace. Evening arrives with sleeves rolled neatly. The building lowers its shoulders to a comfortable height. The bell in the glass room gives a small, contented vibration. You walk the arc of the floor like a gardener checking irrigation. People nod with the relief that follows solid work. Tools look satisfied in their trays. On the roof, the city opens its map of lights. Bridges underline sentences the day finished writing. The sky adds punctuation in silver. You head home, and the sidewalk keeps your measure. Doors pass with the pace of someone who owns their time. The corner shop glows like a dependable vowel. At home, the banner folds itself into a square that fits your chair. The compass rests with its needle steady as a faithful breath. The stone cools, honoring gravity without heaviness. Sleep approaches without negotiation. Muscles file reports and clock out. The contract in your chest warms the room by a degree that helps dreams arrive on time. Dawn returns with respectful certainty, your eyes open to a world ready to be carried, not dominated. He airlifts like a curtain opening on a stage that understands craft. A lobby offers the day as a toolkit, elevators keep their manners. Keys turn like sentences ending exactly where they should. On the desk, a new page waits with a small red dot in its corner. The dot means attention rather than alarm. You place your finger on it and the day lines up without protest. Messages whisper rather than shout. You answer at the level of whisper because dignity loves quiet accuracy. Outcomes solidify in sequence. The second courier of the week brings a packet bound with graphite thread. Inside is a model of the work 2 months from now. It shows where reinforcements must be layered before strain appears. You call the right hands and lay the model between them, eyes scan and nod. Pens mark edges with notes that will save hours later. Afternoon brings a test of timing without malice. 2 streams of work attempt to occupy 1 lane. You widen the lane and reassign the speed. The streams pass without spray, shoes stay dry and papers stay flat. People keep their dignity because water did not reach the ankles. New requests arrive carrying the scent of urgency you no longer allow to rule. You accept what fits the calendar you carved with integrity. You decline what would fracture steadiness. The team learns by watching, not by being lectured. Boundaries appear as clear lines they can lean on. Morale rises quietly and stays. Archangel Michael says repeatability is sainthood for systems. He says your routine is becoming a sturdy staircase. He says each step honors the last without imitating it lazily. Evening settles on the windows like well-placed hands. The bell does not ring because nothing fell out of true. The metronome slows a hair as the day releases its grip. You record 3 sentences in the law book. 1 names what strengthened the whole. 1 names what must be reinforced tomorrow. The 3rd names a kindness that kept the room human. The ink dries into memory that will remain useful. The page turns itself and waits with patience. Home receives you with the welcome of a room that understands work. The lantern's ember holds. The banner keeps it square. Sleep arrives with the authority of a schedule that respects bodies. Breath evens. The city hums the note it learned from your building. Morning again, and the map expands 1 street further. You hold it with hands that won't crumple it. You mark 3 modest crossings no one will notice, but all will benefit from. A visitor comes who once preferred spectacle. Today they prefer clarity because the results are undeniable. They ask for sequence and you give them a page that fits their hands. They leave lighter than they arrive. The corridor keeps the lightness and shares it with the next footsteps. The building grows a fraction easier to navigate. A small emergency appears, real but not catastrophic. You assign it to the person whose calm has been waiting for this exact moment. The problem resolves with tidy closure and documented learning. You buy the team 9 minutes of breathing by removing 2 meetings. The minutes pay dividends inside a single afternoon. Work returns with cleaner arteries. The city outside catches the rhythm and keeps it. Trucks turn corners like sentences landing on the right word. Pedestrians flow like respectful currents. Archangel Michael says excellence is quiet, but its echo travels. He says keep your blade wrapped when not in use. He says sharpen it in silence and use it without flourish. By week's end, the logbook holds a stack of proof. contracts honored themselves because your tone made it natural. The bell stayed mostly still and therefore proud. You carry the notebook home like a lantern turned low. The street nods because it knows your steps by their weight. The door opens with the trust of long practice. The night leans against the window and listens. The stone on the sill keeps its counsel. The compass dreams in small arcs, planning tomorrow's degrees. Sleep takes the room and returns it in better order. Ribs loosen and strengthen in the same hour. The contract in your chest settles deeper into its rightful place. Another dawn and the air tastes of decent ambition. The lobby gives you the day the way a craftsman hands over a tool. You hold it with both hands in respect. A package arrives without a courier, placed quietly on your desk. Inside is a new metronome with a longer stem. It can hold a slower tempo without losing accuracy. You set it beside the old one and let them talk. The older keeps the daily rhythm. The newer teaches the season. Together they shape a pace you can carry through weather that changes. Together they teach the team to breathe in layers. Together they keep the work from becoming a sprint or a stall. Archangel Michael says mastery is pace married to purpose. He says carry both like matched blades. He says your hour will continue to split waste into ribbons and stitch usefulness into days. Evening again, and the rooftop reads like a ledger of light. Bridges close the account with clean lines. The river signs off with a level signature. Home, and the banner folds it square with a soft exhale. The stone cools and remembers mountains without needing to climb them tonight. The compass rests needle true, content to wait. Sleep arrives on schedule and earns its keep. Breath travels the house as a patrol. The city nods off in sections, trusting your corner to stay steady. The red alert is no longer a siren in your blood, it is a disciplined glow that keeps edges visible. It is a color you wear without announcing. You move through your days with voltage sheathed and ready, you speak in sentences that make machinery purr. You place your hands where momentum needs respect. And in that rhythm, shock turns faithful, alarms turn end of architecture. The room of your life keeps the light on and keeps its door cleanly hinged.